The delivery girl at midnight. It was a quiet night. Cold wind touched the windows of Eric's small apartment. The city was asleep. Only the sound of hover cars in the sky broke the silence. Eric sat alone, watching an old movie. His fridge was empty and he was too lazy to cook. So he did what he always did. He ordered pizza, extra cheese, garlic crust. Same as always. He opened the delivery app, selected his favorite place, and placed the order. Estimated time, 27 minutes. He yawned, stretched, and waited. But something felt different tonight. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the strange chill in the air. Eric didn't know. At exactly 12:41 a.m., his doorbell rang. Ding dong. Eric stood up, a little surprised. The delivery person was fast. He opened the door and froze. Standing there was not a human girl. She looked young, maybe early 20s by human guess. Her skin was a soft silver blue, glowing gently under the hallway light. She had big, purple eyes and short white hair tucked under a slightly torn cap. The pizza box trembled in her hands. "Delivery for Eric," she said in a soft, tired voice. Eric blinked. Yeah, that's me." He took the pizza and looked at her again. Her uniform was soaked from light rain and her hands were shaking. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded quickly. "Yes, just a bit cold." Eric looked outside. Her small, delivery hover bike was parked badly, almost falling over. It had no cover. The rain had made it worse. She turned to leave, but then, very quietly, she said, "Sorry, I have no place to go after this." Eric's eyes narrowed. "What?" She stopped, didn't look back. Just said again, "I sleep in my bike, if it doesn't rain." Then she walked back into the dark hallway. Eric stood still, holding the warm pizza. The words hit him harder than he expected. He shut the door, but only halfway. His mind raced. An alien delivery girl? Homeless? Why didn't anyone help her? He didn't even know her name. Was this normal? Did the pizza place know? He looked at the pizza box. It suddenly felt heavy. He opened the door again. She was still there. Sitting on the edge of the hallway floor, hugging her knees, Eric cleared his throat. Do you want to come inside just to dry off, maybe warm up?" The girl looked up, surprised. Her eyes were full of doubt. "I don't want to be a problem," she whispered. Eric shrugged. "It's just a couch, and I have extra tea." She stood, slowly. "Just for tonight?" Eric nodded. "Just tonight." Inside, she sat on the edge of the couch, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't speak much. Eric gave her a blanket and a hot cup of tea. She held it close, like it was the first warm thing she had touched in days. "My name's Lyra," she said finally. "I deliver food to survive." Eric smiled gently. "I'm Eric. I eat food to survive." She chuckled. It was a soft, sweet laugh. But her eyes still held shadows. Eric didn't ask too many questions. He didn't want to make her feel worse. Later, that night, he found her curled up on the floor, even though the couch was empty. He placed a second pillow beside her without saying a word. She opened one eye. "Thank you, human." Eric paused, then said, "You're welcome, alien pizza girl." She smiled. A real one this time. As Eric lay in bed, he kept thinking, who was she really? Why was she on Earth? Why was no one helping her? But the biggest question was, what would happen in the morning? Just for tonight. The morning light crept through the window, soft and golden. Birds chirped outside and a hover car buzzed far above the building. Eric opened his eyes slowly. For a moment, he forgot everything. Just another morning. Then, he remembered. The alien girl, Lyra. He sat up quickly and walked into the living room. The couch was still empty. His eyes dropped to the floor. Lyra was gone, blanket folded neatly, Mug rinsed and placed upside down in the sink, but there was something else. A small paper napkin on the table. It said, "Thank you for the warmth. I didn't want to cause trouble." Larrick stared at the note. For some reason, it hurt a little. Not because she left, but because she didn't believe she was allowed to stay. He sighed and walked to the window. And then, he saw her, down the street, near the alley. Lyra stood by her broken hoverbike, struggling to fix something. She had no tools, no gloves, her fingers were bleeding. Eric rushed outside. "Hey, you left early," he said, walking toward her. She turned, surprised. "I didn't want to be a burden." Eric pointed to her hand. "That doesn't look okay." She quickly hid her hand behind her. "It's fine, just a scratch." "Looks like more than that." Lyra looked down. "The engine core is dying. If I don't fix it, the shop will fire me." Eric thought for a second, then spoke slowly. "How long have you been sleeping in that thing?" Lyra stayed silent. "Days, weeks?" 3 months. Eric shook his head in disbelief. "That's not living," Lyra's voice cracked. "It's all I have." Eric didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Come back inside. Let me give you something to eat." Lyra hesitated. "Just for a few minutes?" Eric smiled. "Just for a few minutes." Back in the apartment, Eric made toast and eggs. He also poured her a big glass of orange juice. Lyra ate quietly, like someone not used to eating warm food. She didn't look up much, but every bite seemed to bring her back to life. After breakfast, Eric leaned back in his chair. "So, tell me something. Why Earth?" Lyra looked at her plate. "My home planet is gone. War, fire, then silence." Eric's smile faded. "I was a student, studying star communication. I had dreams. Then the system broke, our people were scattered, I ended up here. And no one helped?" She gave a dry laugh. "Help? We're not citizens. We're cargo. At least that's what they said at the port." Eric felt something rise in his chest. Anger? Guilt? He wasn't sure. Lyra's voice became softer. "I tried the shelters, I really did, but one night, 2 aliens went missing. The next night someone tried to break into my locker. I ran." Eric stood up, walked to the window, then looked back at her. "You're not going back out there." Lyra looked shocked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, stay here. Not forever. But until we figure something out." Her eyes widened. "No, I can't. What if they track me? What if they come for me?" Eric looked serious now. "Then they'll deal with me." She shook her head. "You don't understand. They have scanners. They'll know." Eric's voice was calm but firm. "Let them scan. Let them come. I'm not letting someone who delivered me pizza sleep in the rain." Lyra's lips trembled. For a moment, she looked like she might cry, but instead, she just whispered, "Thank you, Eric." Later that day, Eric searched online for alien housing rights. Most of the pages were full of technical nonsense, legal terms, hidden traps. But one thing was clear: unregistered alien refugees had no real protection. That night, as Lyra sat curled on the couch, she asked, "Do you believe in fate, human?" Eric raised a brow. "Only when it brings pizza." Lyra smiled softly. "Maybe fate delivered me to the right door." Eric didn't reply. He just looked at her tired eyes, her thin arms, and thought, "Just for tonight," she said. But what if tonight turns into something more? Her past is not pizza. The TV was on, but Eric wasn't watching it. He sat on the floor, fixing a small heating coil from Lyra's broken hoverbike. Tools and wires lay scattered around him. His fingers moved slowly, carefully. He wasn't a mechanic, but he was trying. Across the room, Lyra sat with her knees pulled up, sipping warm soup. It was her 3rd night in Eric's apartment. She hadn't asked to stay again. She simply hadn't left. Not because she wanted comfort, but because she had nowhere else to go. Eric finally broke the silence. You don't talk much about your past. Lyra didn't look up. There's nothing special in it. I don't believe that, Eric said. Not with the way you flinch when the doorbell rings, or how you sleep with one eye, half open. Lyra stayed quiet for a moment. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, Back home, I was a student. My planet had universities, libraries made of crystal. We studied light, sound, how energy travels through stars. Eric paused, listening, carefully. Then the war came. It wasn't our war. Bigger empires fought above our skies, but when fire falls from space, it doesn't care who started it. Her voice grew colder. They called it strategic cleansing. My city was erased in minutes. I ran. I ended up in a cargo pod, alone. I didn't even know where I would land. Eric looked stunned. And no one tracked your escape? No one looked for survivors? Lyra gave a bitter smile. My people are scattered. Our system doesn't exist anymore. We became numbers, placed into sectors. She held up her wrist. A faint scar showed where something metallic had once been. Eric asked gently, What was that? A tracker. For work permits. It also alerts authorities if we stay in one place too long. You cut it out? I had help. Another alien in the shelter. She disappeared 2 nights later. Eric sat back, his expression unreadable. You're not just homeless, he said softly. You're hunted. Lyra didn't answer, but the way her hands shook told him everything. He got up and walked to the kitchen, trying to clear his head. He opened a cabinet, grabbed some cookies, and brought them to her. She blinked. You always give food when things get heavy, Eric chuckled. It's my version of a hug. She took a cookie and smiled, just a little. Then she said something unexpected. I wasn't supposed to be a pizza girl. I wanted to build communication towers. I had dreams of helping ships talk across galaxies. Eric tilted his head. That's big thinking. She nodded. Now I carry garlic bread and soda bottles. Her words weren't bitter, just tired. Eric sat beside her. You're still helping, he said. How? You delivered to me, remember? And now look at us. Lyra laughed gently, the sound light and real. So? I helped the human who's helping me. Circle complete? Eric smiled. Exactly. That night, Lyra finally slept on the couch. No floor, no cold tiles, no fear in her eyes. Eric checked on her once just to be sure. She was curled under the blanket, breathing softly, peacefully. He turned off the lights and whispered, You're safe here. But across the city, in a quiet gray building, something else was happening. A screen lit up in blue. An old system had finally pinged back. Unregistered alien signal. Active last known location. Sector 4. Human residential block. Flagged. Escaped. Class 3 migrant. A mechanical voice spoke in the dark. Subject Lyra has been found. A storm. A secret. A scar. The wind howled louder than usual that night. Clouds rolled across the sky like angry waves. Rain slapped against the windows as lightning lit up the apartment. The city had gone quiet. Too quiet. Eric stood near the window watching the storm roll in. The news called it a Level 2 lightning shift. Streets were flooded. Transports were grounded. Power lines flickered. He turned back toward the couch. Lyra wasn't there. Lyra, he called softly. No reply. He walked toward the kitchen and found her crouched in the dark corner behind the fridge, shaking like a leaf. Her hands were pressed over her ears. Her breathing was fast. Her body trembled all over. Hey, Eric said, kneeling beside her. It's just a storm. She looked up at him with wide, wet eyes, but she wasn't in this room anymore. Not really. It sounds like the sky is falling, she whispered. Like before. Eric reached out. You're safe. It's just thunder. You're inside now. No, she mumbled, her voice cracking. They came during the storm. They always came during the storm. Eric froze. Who? She didn't answer. Instead, her shirt slipped slightly as she moved, and Eric saw something. Long burned marks across her back. The scars looked old, but deep. Jagged, like melted wires had once wrapped around her body. Lyra, he said, barely breathing. Who did that to you? Her lip trembled. She tried to pull the shirt back up. I told you the shelter wasn't safe. Eric sat back, his heart pounding. This wasn't just homelessness. This wasn't just hunger. She had been hunted, branded, tortured. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Lyra shook her head. You didn't do it. No, but I didn't know. And I should have. You helped me. That's more than anyone else has done. Eric stood and grabbed a warm towel from the bathroom. He handed it to her and helped her up from the cold floor. You don't ever have to hide like that again, he said. She hesitated. But what if they come? Eric answered. Then I answer the door first. Hours later, the storm still raged, but inside Lyra was warm, dry, and finally asleep on the couch. The scars on her back hidden once again, but no longer from Eric. He sat nearby, watching her. How could anyone hurt her? Why didn't anyone stop it? He thought back to the alien tracker system she mentioned, the shelters, the programs that sounded more like prisons. And now, what if someone knew she was here? That thought wouldn't leave his head. Eric stood up and opened his old storage drawer. Inside was a small toolkit, a scanner, and a few parts from his old tech job. He picked them up and quietly said, if she still has a tracker, I'm going to find it and rip it out myself. At the same time, far away in a dark room, a silent drone lifted into the night air. It moved through the rain with purpose. Its scanners glowed red as it whispered to itself, searching for subject. Lyra, energy signature detected. Visitors from the shelter. The next morning came with an uneasy stillness. The storm had passed, but the sky stayed gray. Light rain tapped gently on the window. Lyra sat at the small table, holding a mug of tea with both hands. Her eyes were quiet, distant, like she was still listening for thunder. Eric placed a plate of toast in front of her. Eat something. You barely touched dinner. She looked up and gave a faint smile. I didn't want to dream again. Eric sat down across from her. Lyra, do you think you're still being tracked? She looked away. I'm not sure. I destroyed the chip, but the shelters had other ways. Some said even clothing fibers carried markers. Others said the food was tagged. Eric frowned. So they knew where you were? Where all of you were? Lyra nodded. Some aliens called it care, others called it control. Eric stood and walked to his storage box. He pulled out an old hand scanner. I used this back in my tech job. Not military grade, but maybe it'll help. He brought it near Lyra, scanning slowly. Nothing at first, then beep, a soft pulse, not strong, but real. Something's still active, Eric whispered. It's not under your skin, but it's close. Lyra's eyes went wide. My delivery badge. I never took it off. She ripped off the small plastic ID hanging from her belt. Eric scanned it. Beep, 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 that's it. He dropped it in a metal bowl and zapped it with a pulse from his old deactivator tool. The lights flickered, and the signal died. Now it's silent, Eric said. They can't trace that, but he didn't say the rest of what he was thinking. What if someone already did? Just before noon, there was a knock on the door. Not the buzzer. Not the bell. A slow, heavy knock. Eric froze. Lyra's mug slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Stay here, Eric said, walking to the door. He didn't open it right away. He looked through the side camera first. Two figures stood outside. Tall. Dressed in dark gray coats with glowing emblems on their shoulders. Their skin was greenish gray, not from any known Earth species. Their eyes scanned the hallway slowly. One of them leaned closer to the door and said, Human resident. This is an alien welfare visit. May we come in? Eric opened the door only slightly. What do you want? The taller one smiled politely. We received a signal ping from this location last night. We're checking for any illegal refugee hiding here. Eric kept his expression calm. I don't know anything about that. The second one narrowed his eyes. You had a food delivery recently, didn't you? A female courier? Eric shrugged. I don't remember faces. I just eat the food. The taller one took a small scanner from his coat and waved it toward the door. Just a quick sweep, nothing personal. Eric blocked the scanner. You need a warrant or permission. This is private Earth property. The alien smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course, just doing our job. They stepped back. If you remember anything, you can call this number. He handed Eric a glowing chip. Eric shut the door and locked it instantly. He turned to see Lyra still crouched near the table, her hands over her mouth. They're looking for me, she whispered. They traced the signal before we killed it. Eric knelt beside her. It's okay. They didn't come in. But they will. Next time with force. Then we prepare. Before that happens, he said. That night Eric didn't sleep. He moved through the apartment, turning old junk into makeshift defenses, hidden camera eyes, noise alerts, thermal masking sheets for the walls. Lyra helped where she could. She rewired a motion sensor from his closet into the main door. She looked at him seriously and asked, Why are you doing all this? You barely know me, Eric answered, simply. Because someone should have helped you long ago, and I refuse to be just another door that closes on you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She said nothing, but in her heart, something shifted. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't running alone. Far above the clouds, a drone floated in the rain. Its red eye blinked once. Location ping confirmed. Orders uploaded. Target: Lyra. Status: recover or terminate escape or belonging. Lyra stood at the edge of the balcony, staring out into the foggy night. Rain misted her silver-blue skin, and the glowing lights of the city blinked below like quiet stars. Her arms were crossed tightly around herself, and her breath came out in shaky clouds. Behind her, Eric worked quietly, packing a small bag with emergency supplies: blanket, food bars, water tubes. Neither of them spoke. The silence between them wasn't cold, it was full of questions. Finally, Lyra broke it. I should leave before they return. Eric zipped the bag shut, but didn't hand it to her. Where would you go? Lyra looked down. Somewhere far. Somewhere no scanner can find me. And what then? Keep running? Keep hiding? Lyra's voice cracked. At least I'll still be alive. Eric stepped forward. This isn't life, Lyra. Running every day, sleeping in corners, hiding behind walls. You deserve more than this. She looked at him with tired eyes. Deserve? I'm not even a person in their system. To them, I'm cargo. And to most humans, I'm just a problem. Eric placed the bag on the table and walked up to her. You're not a problem. You're my guest, my friend, my responsibility. Lyra blinked, stunned. You don't even know what I've done. What if I'm not worth it? Eric tilted his head. Did you steal, kill, hurt someone? No. Then you're already worth more than half the people in power. She gave a small laugh. Then looked away again. But you're in danger because of me. Eric nodded slowly. Maybe. But if the price of being human is turning away from someone who needs me, then I don't want to be human. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, and then finally she said, I don't want to run anymore. Eric's face softened. Then stay. The next morning, Lyra wore a soft sweater Eric had given her. It was too big, but it was warm and smelled like soap and safety. As she helped Eric install a second lock on the door, she suddenly asked, Were you always like this? Kind to strangers? Eric smiled. No, I used to keep to myself, until I realized that being alone didn't protect me from anything. It just made me numb. Lyra nodded. Alone is cold. That afternoon, they shared a small meal and laughed over a broken toaster that kept launching bread across the room. Lyra even danced once, barefoot on the rug, to an old Earth song playing softly. For the first time, she looked like someone who belonged, not hiding, not afraid, just living. But peace never lasted long. Late that night, as the city slept, a sharp buzz echoed from Eric's tablet. Motion alert. Unidentified presence detected near stairwell. Eric's blood turned cold. He grabbed the tablet, tapped the live camera. Feed. 2 shadowed figures in gray coats stood just outside the main door of the building. Lyra was already standing. They're back, she whispered. Eric turned to her. Go to the back room now. She froze. I'm not leaving you to face them. Eric grabbed her hand. I'm not asking you to run, just let me stall them. You decide what you want. Escape or stay. But if you stay, it becomes war. Lyra stepped back, eyes full of fear and fire. As Eric opened the front door a crack, one of the gray-coated aliens smiled. Evening, human. We're following up. Just a quick scan. Eric stood tall. No scan without a warrant. The second, alien pulled out a glowing disc. We have permission from the Planetary Enforcement Agency. Eric gritted his teeth. This is still my home. Not for long, the alien said coldly. The refugee inside, Lyra, belongs to us. Suddenly a voice echoed behind Eric. No, I don't. Lyra stepped out, eyes steady. Her posture was strong. I am not a refugee. I'm a survivor. The aliens blinked. Eric stared, shocked. Lyra stepped beside him. You don't own me, you don't control me, and I will not be hunted like prey again. Eric moved in front of her. She's with me, and if you want to take her, you'll have to go through me. The taller alien's eyes narrowed. Then, surprisingly, they stepped back. This isn't over, one of them said, turning away. As they disappeared down the hall, Lyra exhaled sharply and fell into Eric's arms. I stayed, she whispered. I chose to stay. Eric held her tightly. Then we fight. Together. A home with extra cheese 1 week later. The rain had stopped. But something bigger had changed. The gray coats never returned. Maybe it was because Lyra stood up to them. Maybe it was Eric's refusal to back down. Or maybe, just maybe, someone higher up saw the truth and decided to stop hunting her. Whatever the reason, peace had returned to the small apartment. And Lyra? She was no longer a guest. She was home. That morning she stood in the kitchen wearing one of Eric's oversized shirts, sleeves rolled up, tail swaying behind her as she focused on the oven. Careful with that cheese, Eric called from the couch. Last time it overflowed. That's called extra flavor, Lyra said with a grin. She had learned to make human-style pizza, but her version had spicy alien herbs, glowing blue sauce, and soft bread that puffed up like clouds. It was strange, but somehow amazing. Eric took a deep breath. That smells like dinner and happiness mixed together. She walked over, placed the steaming pizza on the table, and sat across from him. You always say weird things. I'm human. We do that. They laughed together. For the first time, their table didn't feel like a guest spot. It felt like a shared space, like two people who had built something, brick by brick, slice by slice. As they ate, Lyra glanced at the window. You think they're still watching? Eric shrugged. Maybe, but let them. We're not hiding anymore. She nodded. Good. Then, quietly, she added, You gave me something I thought I lost forever. Eric blinked. What's that? Place to belong. He smiled. You gave me something too. What? He leaned back. Someone who eats the weird toppings I never had the courage to try. She threw a piece of crust at him. That's not deep at all. Fine, he said, catching it midair. You gave me someone to care about, someone real. Lyra's eyes softened, and for a moment, no words were needed. Later that evening, the apartment lights dimmed to a soft golden glow. Music played quietly in the background. Earth jazz. Slow, smooth. Lyra stood near the balcony, watching the stars. Eric joined her, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. They're peaceful tonight, she said. The stars? She nodded. It's funny. I used to dream of traveling to them. Now all I want is to stay in this little corner of the galaxy. Eric sipped his tea. Funny how that works. Lyra turned toward him. I was scared the first night I met you. Eric smiled. You looked like you wanted to run the whole time. I did. Why didn't you? She paused, then whispered. Because when I looked in your eyes, I didn't see fear. I saw space. I saw room. For me. Eric didn't speak. He just set his mug down and opened his arms. Lyra stepped into them without hesitation. Weeks turned to months. Lyra started working again. This time not as a delivery girl, but as a translator for alien refugee services. Her voice helped others, who were scared, just like she had been. Eric continued his tech repair job, but now he came home to a warm kitchen, strange smells and laughter that echoed off the walls. Sometimes they fought over pizza toppings, sometimes over what show to watch, but they always ended the night side by side. One day a letter came. It had a golden seal. Eric opened it and read aloud. Human-affiliated citizen application approved for Lyra of Sector 9 Delta. Residence verified. Host confirmed. Lyra gasped. Is this real? Eric nodded. You're no longer hunted. You're registered. Legal. Free. She stared at the paper in disbelief, then looked at him with shining eyes. I'm a person again. No, Eric said, smiling. You always were. That night they sat on the floor with a pizza between them, half Earth style, half glowing alien style. Lyra took a slice, held it high, and said, To homes found in strange places. Eric clinked his slice with hers. And to pizza that saves lives. They both took a bite and burst into laughter. And as the stars twinkled above, one small apartment on Earth glowed a little brighter, because inside, a human and an alien girl had stopped running and started living together.